Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. Okay, Lindsay, with your background back in the day as a TV news producer, I feel like we need to cue the breaking news music. Do-do-do-do-do-do. That's because we are breaking some news. It's a news flash from our guest today.
Right. And I have to say, I haven't been in a newsroom for about 10 years.
Okay.
So, but I still love me some breaking news. It's happening, Bruce. This is really exciting. Here to tell us all about it is Programs Manager at SWACO, Andrew Booker. Andrew, welcome to Link Ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we're here to talk about today, let's get right to it. SWACO and Rumpke are expanding the recycling program here in Central Ohio to include clear plastic clamshell containers. Cue the applause, cue the applause. So people have really been asking us about this for a number of years. These are those strawberries, blueberries, things in the plastic containers. And people have been asking, can I recycle that? Can I recycle that? The answer has been no for a number of years, but you're here to tell us what today?
For the first time in Central Ohio, you can now recycle clamshell containers. It is big news. Let's give credit where credit is due. It's really Rumpke that is responsible for this. They've expanded their list, which means anybody in Franklin County, any community in Franklin County, in their curbside program, if they use a SWACO drop-off, anywhere residential recycling is accepted, you can recycle clamshell containers.
That is awesome. It's funny because I told my wife this was coming down, and as soon as I told her this was mid-October, she started putting it in recycling. I go, not yet. Right? We're not there yet.
Right. Yes. So, which clamshell containers will be accepted? Talk us through that.
Really, the most common ones that people have in their home and purchase is going to be strawberry, blueberry containers. Sometimes you get carry-out food in a clear plastic clamshell container, and sometimes when you buy eggs at the grocery store, it's in a clear plastic clamshell.
So I'm just curious, how long has this been in the works?
It's hard to put a number on that, a time frame, but the nature of recycling is that in order to make it a viable thing to recycle, Rumpke has to have a market for it. There has to be a stable, sustainable, there has to be somebody to buy it. So this is one of those products that the nature of it is that there historically hasn't been a strong enough market to make it worthwhile to design a facility to actually separate it and then bale it up and sell that material.
And this is all made possible by the specialized waste sorting and recycling facility with the acronym MRF.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So MRF is really just a fancy acronym for a material recovery facility. Rumpke, we're really excited. It's really a big news in Central Ohio when it comes to recycling and sustainability. They've built the largest MRF, the largest recycling facility in North America.
Wow.
It's a huge facility. It's quite a thing, over 200,000 square feet. They invested over $100 million in this facility.
Holy cow.
And they've utilized really the most modern technology that you can when it comes to recycling. These are, you can take a tour of it. I would encourage people that are interested to get on the Rumpke website and do so. It's an amazing thing to see. When you put your recycling in your curbside bin, it's all mixed together.
Right.
This is a very sophisticated facility designed to very efficiently separate all those individual materials out into different categories: aluminum cans, plastic bottles, paper, cardboard. They consolidate it, they bale it up, and then put that on a semi-trailer and ship it to a manufacturing facility that is going to make it into something new. It's really something to see, and it's really great news for Central Ohio.
Wow, that is awesome. All right, so we have the scoop on the clamshell containers. Let's broaden out a little bit, Andrew. Remind our listeners what can and can't be recycled on that residential side.
Let's start with the easy stuff, paper and cardboard. So all of your junk mail, all your Amazon boxes, and don't tell me you don't have some of those coming your way. Cereal boxes, pasta boxes, anything when it comes to paper, anything you can tear, you can recycle. So it's super easy. You don't have to worry about.
All right, pizza boxes.
Pizza boxes, a good question. For a long time, the story has been if it's too soaked up with grease and so forth, it can't be recycled.
Right.
Actually, that's another thing that has changed. The industry has now determined that they can take any pizza box. So any pizza box, take out that liner. Right. So if it has a liner on the inside, throw that part away, but the whole pizza box can be recycled.
Sweet.
So that's cardboard is pretty easy. I'm glad you asked the pizza box question.
Definitely.
Another easy one, I think, is glass. So glass bottles, your beverage of choice, iced tea, beer, wine, color, doesn't matter, all colors, pickle jars, jam jars, whatever it may be that comes in a glass jar, bottle in your kitchen, that can be recycled. Cartons, milk cartons, juice boxes, broth, vegetable broth, chicken broth comes in those things. All those can be recycled. Metal cans, aluminum cans, again, beverages, tin, what we would call tin cans. That's an old term.
Yeah.
But, soup cans, tuna, cat food. I mean, any of those can be recycled. Aerosol cans. So aerosol cans, if they're all, you have to make sure they're empty.
Okay.
Pop the little top off of it. That can be put in your curbside recycling as well. And then maybe we'll get into the most complicated one, which is plastic bottles and containers. Plastic bottles, water bottles, any other beverage that is in a plastic bottle, laundry detergent jugs, shampoo bottles, yogurt containers, sour cream tubs, and then plastic cups. And that's actually a relatively new addition, cups to the mix.
Right.
So both plastic cups that you would get, like clear plastic cups, or cups that you would get at a fast food restaurant, or also paper cups. So at your favorite coffee shop, those are now recyclable as well. So there's the list of what is on the yes side of the ledger is continuing to grow, which is exciting, and it makes it easier for residents to recycle.
Well, and that is a big, long laundry list. And I know you mentioned the website earlier. So you have a chat function on your website. So I can go there today and say, what about this? What about this?
Yep.
And it's going to spit out all the correct information.
Yeah, we have a website called recycleright.org, just one word, recycleright.org, that is dedicated to education of residents on what can and can't be recycled. It actually has a really extensive list. It's got a search engine. So it's going to show you not only the traditional recyclables that you would generate in your house, but all kinds of other potentially recyclable items and where you can recycle them in Central Ohio.
Awesome.
Let's talk a little bit more about what not to recycle. What are some of the mistakes that you see or things that definitely should not be put in the recycling bin?
If I can communicate one important thing today, it would be that batteries do not belong in your curbside recycling. So one of the biggest risks and one of the biggest problems and challenges for recycling companies are fires in their recycling facilities.
Okay.
And it is often caused by lithium-ion batteries, the kind of batteries that you now find in cell phones and a lot of other products. And so absolutely no batteries, number one. And number two, keep your materials loose. Those facilities, the MRF, the recycling facility, is designed specifically to separate those materials out. If things come in a plastic bag, particularly a garbage bag that you can't see in, it's just going to get pulled off the line and thrown away as trash.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So one of the myths I hear sometimes is people think that all of the material is going to end up in the landfill regardless of if they recycle it anyway. Can you address that and just put this to bed?
Yes, and it is always surprising how many people have that belief. I think it comes from sometimes these news stories that they may read about what's happening globally or what's happening elsewhere. Recycling is regional, and I can assure you that what gets put in the recycling bin in Franklin County, Ohio, gets recycled. And in fact, 80% of what you put in the bin is recycled in Ohio, meaning it is sold and turned into something new at a facility here in Ohio. It stays right in Ohio. That's that growing circular economy. It's a really unfortunate, I think, kind of urban legend that everything ends up in the landfill. You would not see these facilities coming online, the investments of hundreds of millions of dollars, the efforts that are being put in there, if these things weren't actually being recycled. And we have some information on our website, SWACO.org, about the circular economy and some of these facilities that are actually buying this material, using it as a raw material to make new cardboard boxes. Just a great, simple example. You put a cardboard box in your recycling bin. It goes to Wapakoneta, Ohio, to a Pratt facility that turns it back into a cardboard box. It could easily show up back at your doorstep once again. And something like an aluminum can. Aluminum can be recycled into aluminum can and be back on the shelf in as little as 60 days.
Wow.
So it's real. It's real, and it's good for the economy, not only good for the environment.
When you mention the circular economy, and I have to compliment you on your Patagonia vest you have on there, a very well-known company for being eco-friendly.
That's a great example of, you see more and more companies, and textiles is a good example, more and more companies are recognizing that they need to do more. Patagonia is very much a early adopter of that philosophy, but there are others that are standing up programs where, like, when you return something, that it gets resold, or they're standing up repair programs so you can mail back your clothing to get it repaired. You're seeing more and more companies doing the right thing, but it takes consumers, it takes residents.
Sure.
I'm telling you, the power of an email is it's underrated.
Oh, we know.
Yeah,
we work in local government.
So I mean, consumers speaking to the brands that they are buying from, saying we want you to do more, it really does help move the needle.
We also want to talk about food waste. Now, this is a biggie. Every day, more than 1 million, yes, more than 1 million pounds of food waste comes to the Franklin County landfill. And along with that comes the waste of resources used to grow it, transport it, prepare it, all of that. We are a partner of yours for the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative. SWACO has made some updates to that plan. Can you outline some of those for us?
Yeah, the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative really is just a group of stakeholders that we've brought together, that have an interest in food waste from a lot of different angles. All of these partners are implementing really solid programs to try to reduce that. Food waste is, in fact, the largest single waste stream that goes into the landfill. It's 15% of what goes into the landfill. And there's a lot of important reasons why we want to keep that out. One of the things that we're very proud of is the growth of food waste drop-offs that are available to residents. So some people will compost in their backyard, but for a lot of people, that's just not a convenient way to go about it. Dublin's one of the communities that has one.
Yes, thank you.
And in fact, there are 11 communities now that have food waste drop-offs, and there will soon be about 31 different locations available in Central Ohio to drop off your food waste. 5-6 years ago, there were none of those. So this is really a testament to our really strong local communities that are recognizing the need to do something good when it comes to food waste and really respond to their residents that want to do the right thing.
Absolutely. We launched that program, I want to say 3-4 years ago. I'm not sure. And it has been wildly successful, way more successful than I ever would have anticipated. So anyone who wants to get involved with that's just 24/7 drop off at our service center on Shire Rings Road. So take your compostable materials there.
So when people recycle food, they think, oh, it's in a landfill. That'll all just, biodegradable. It's all going to go somewhere. But it doesn't.
That is correct. So it's a rather complicated issue. Landfills are actually designed so that things do not degrade. So that's a thing that's a
myth. Like everyone thinks, oh, it's going to go back to the earth. Now
there is degradation that happens in the landfill, and we have invested. SWACO has invested heavily in a methane gas collection system where we are actually able to capture much of it, clean it up to pipeline grade, and put it back into the grade. We process enough methane gas to heat up to 13,000 homes a year.
Wow.
However, it is better to keep it out of the landfill for a lot of reasons. In some cases, we're talking about food, and we're not necessarily talking about residential necessarily, but there's a lot of food that's generated from businesses that could be donated to feed hungry people. And then a lot of this material, a better environmental solution to this is to get it to a compost facility and have it turned into a soil amendment to get those nutrients back into our soil to help grow more food in the future.
We like to do our research and our benchmarking around here, and Vermont has been the forerunner on composting among the states. Mandatory composting went into effect there in 2020. Are there any other states or cities or towns launching efforts like that you're watching, Andrew?
We really don't have to. We do pay attention nationwide and really globally as to what's happening, but we don't have to look very far. We've got 2 cities right here in Central Ohio, Upper Arlington and Bexley, that have curbside recycling programs for food waste curbside programs. And we have a lot of other communities that are interested in that. There are other communities right here in Ohio. Athens, Ohio is an example that has curbside organics collection, and cities like Minneapolis, Boston, Austin, Texas, and many, many others. In fact, right now there are several hundred communities across the country that have curbside organics collection, and we will be seeing more of those happening in Central Ohio over the next 3 to 5 years.
Awesome. And with everything we're talking about here, from recycling more to composting, this can extend the life of the landfill, right?
That's right. It's an important component of why we do this. It's something that people, it's very tangible to people. If you drive down 71 South, you can see the landfill.
Right.
It grows, every day. We work right there, and we can see it with our own eyes. But there really are bigger issues when it comes to recycling and composting than that sometimes people don't think about. Everything that you have, everything that you hold in your hand, everything that comes into your home, it comes from someplace.
Right.
And ultimately, that place is the earth. Right. It's extracted from the earth in some way. People intuitively think about that when it comes to food waste. A tree, apple comes from a tree. Corn comes from the cornfields that we see. People don't always think about it when it comes to an aluminum can.
Right.
Bauxite ore was extracted from the earth. It was processed into sheets of aluminum. It was turned into an aluminum can. It was filled with a beverage. It was transported to your grocery store. You picked it up. You drank the beverage. You enjoyed it. And then you've got a choice right then. You can either put it in the recycling bin so it can become another aluminum can, or you have to go all the way back to the beginning of that process and extract more ore. It's really the difference between what we call a linear economy, where it ends in a landfill disposal, or a circular economy where it goes back into the economy, becomes something new, and has life again. And it's all that energy is saved when you can go to a circular model.
Well, you mentioned the landfill, and you give tours of the landfill. I went on one earlier this year, and I have to tell you, it's impressive. It's a little depressing. Because you're looking at everything that's in there. And of course, I'm like, that could have been recycled and that could have been, reused or anything like that. But, I don't think people realize how interesting that facility is. So talk a little bit about the landfill and the tours that you give there.
Yeah, we're very proud of those landfill tours. We see over 4,000 children a year, primarily kids on field trips. It is often identified by the teachers and the students as their favorite field trip of the year. We're very proud of what we do. And a landfill is actually quite an engineering feat in and of itself. So there's a lot of thought and there's a lot of engineering that goes into designing, building, and operating the landfill. And we want to teach about what goes into that. But the primary purpose is to talk about what could be kept out of the landfill.
Right.
And so you're absolutely right. 75% of what goes into the landfill could be diverted.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you see the very easy to recycle things like cardboard and aluminum cans and plastic bottles, could be a little bit depressing, but we hope it's motivating.
Yes.
We hope it motivates people to realize we can do better. And really, recycling continues to evolve, but we are today, where we sit today with recycling, really people's mindsets should be that to expect recycling to take place wherever they are, at their home, at their work, where they play. So we should be asking questions of the businesses. If you work somewhere and they're not recycling, you should ask the question, why aren't we recycling?
Yep.
If you're at a park and there's no recycling available, you should ask the question, why don't we have recycling at the park? We really should expect it at this point.
Absolutely.
You can see these investments that are taking place by Waste Management or Rumpke for this new facility, but there are other companies that are investing heavily as well. Waste Management has announced that over the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to invest over $1 billion into their recycling facilities across the country. I don't know if you heard the news recently. There's a company called D-Brand that is going to put a textile recycling facility just north here in Delaware County, investing in Central Ohio's recycling economy. These investments really show that these private sector companies understand that recycling is here to stay and it's going to grow. It's going to become more and more important, and there's going to be more and more items that we can recycle over time.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. I saw a trailer today for a Netflix show, Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy. And it was, in the trailer, there was a gentleman that said, they expect us to do all the work for recycling and that. Like, what ownership should these businesses take? And I'm glad to hear you say that private businesses are paying attention to this.
Some of these states that you mentioned, Vermont and some other states you'll see across the country, there is a thing called extended producer responsibility. It's becoming more and more common. It's really just a concept of when people sell products into the economy, that they should have some responsibility for end of life. What happens to that item when it's done? So there's designing for end of life is kind of part of that concept, and putting some responsibility on them to help support the collection programs or the recycling programs for these materials. I'll get nerdy here for a minute. In the environmental field, the way that we do recycling, it's like trying to solve the problem at the end is called kind of an end of pipe solution, meaning like you don't really think about it all the way up until you've got a waste product. And now at the end of the pipe, you got to figure out how to clean it up. That's how recycling has been for a long time. These ideas, concepts like extended producer responsibility are more of an integrated way to solve these problems. And it's a better, more efficient way to solve these problems.
So back to us for the consumers and what could be kept out of the landfill. Can you talk a little bit about some of the everyday items that you see in the landfill that could be reused?
I would say two things just to residents in terms of the things that you generate in your home. One thing to do is just think about your system. And you don't realize it, but you do have a system in your home for recycling. So what we find sometimes people are doing a decent job, but they may not recycle anything in their bathroom, for instance. Like the toilet paper tubes, it's cardboard, it's recyclable.
You don't just leave them there and someone takes care of them?
Well, somebody takes care of them for you.
That's good. I thought you were going to say ask my wife.
No.
Shampoo bottles. A lot of other products in your bathroom can be recycled. It's a plastic bottle. It can be recycled. So sometimes people don't have a recycling container in the bathroom, and those things get thrown away. Some people have a man cave in the basement or in the garage to watch, sports, watch the football game. They may be generating, let's say, possibly some aluminum cans or some glass bottles, and they don't have a container there. And so one of the things that people can do is just try to look holistically about how they manage the recycling in their home. And then the other thing I would say is kind of coming back to this: where you live, where you work, where you play. Is your church recycling? Is your school recycling? Is your job recycling? Ask those questions, because you've got an organization called SWACO, where we have a team of about 9 people who basically are free consultants that can help any entity, whether it's a school, a business, a homeowner, recycle. We can get it done. And in this day and age, there are options.
Well, you said team, and it has to be a team effort. It has to be a community-wide effort, because this landfill is not going to stay around forever.
Right. And that's a good point, Lindsay. Like, what is the projected lifespan of a landfill?
It's about 40 years right now. And obviously...
40 years from today?
Roughly.
Okay.
Yes, roughly.
November 1st.
I'm going to mark this down.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll still be around.
And so all the waste diversion that we can do, obviously, can extend that.
Yeah, we can extend it.
And we would hope, can we get 70 years out of it? Can we get 75 or 80 years out of it? I think it's possible if we all work collectively as communities to get this material out of the landfill.
Well, one last note from my trip to the landfill that was interesting is they have this whole air freshener system, right? So you go around and you see there's sort of like an air filtration, maybe some lavender coming out today, or strawberry. And so I thought that was really innovative. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, we do a lot to try to make the landfill as kind of palatable as it possibly can be.
Yeah. We also wanted to mention that SWACO has a podcast too called Waste Ed. Waste
I like the name. Very, very clever.
And you are just out of the gate with episode 2. You and the team have to be excited about that. Tell us a little bit about that effort.
There's a lot of people have questions about waste management, about recycling, about composting, about all these issues that we're talking today. So it's just an opportunity to kind of engage in those kind of conversations. We'd like to think and talk big picture, the circular economy, the future. We are, by the very nature of what we do, kind of people that plan out into the future. There's a lot of interesting investments happening, a lot of different initiatives happening. So it's a way to continue the dialogue.
Well, right. And we know that there is an interest in this. Our last SWACO episode that we did here on Link Ahead was our second most popular of the year. So, people listen to that thing like crazy. So do you think you can top that, Andrew?
Way to put the pressure on.
Right. We will see. We will see.
So what else should residents know about recycling?
Well, there's a couple things. I would repeat again, recycleright.org is a great source of information. When it comes to food waste, we have the same kind of a website. It's called savemorethanfood.org, and it has all kinds of information about how to compost, how to reduce your food waste, how to store waste properly at home, how to shop smart, how to donate. So it's got a lot of great information. And then there really are 2 facilities that I don't think enough people know about. Dublin, every spring, has an HHW collection day. I don't know that everybody realizes that's actually sponsored by SWACO.
Yes, absolutely. Household hazardous waste. People love that too.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, over 1,000 cars typically go through that. It's a very successful event. But we actually have a permanent facility at 645 East 8th Avenue. It's near the fairgrounds. It's very convenient. It's open 5 days a week, 9 to 5. And it's open the first Saturday of every month as well. So that's you don't have to wait. You don't have to hold and when we're talking about household hazards, we're talking about the stuff in your garage and your basement primarily, right? So old gasoline, lawn chemicals, pool chemicals, cleaning products, paint, all those kind of things. So that facility is open 5 days a week and the first Saturday of every month. We also have a new facility, which is our convenience center, located at 2566 Jackson Pike, a little bit south of the city. It's open Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday 9 to 4:30 p.m. It collects all kinds of materials: traditional recycling, food waste, scrap metal, polystyrene, old bicycles, clothing, fats, oils, and greases. We call that, but people who do like deep frying,
Right.
Pill bottles, electronics, a variety of, get on our website, SWACO.org, and you can see the very, very extensive list, and we're adding materials all the time. It's a one-stop shop for people that want to recycle any variety of harder to recycle things.
I shouldn't have to take anything and put it in the garbage and take it to the curb, is what you're saying.
We're getting closer and closer to that point.
Well, Andrew, you have so much going on at SWACO, and we just keep on talking. We could keep on talking, but let's put a bow on this episode. We end our podcast with rapid fire questions for our guests. So here we go. You ready?
All right, let's go.
Okay. Be honest. What's the weirdest thing you have ever recycled?
So years ago, there was a young artist here in town who was just getting started, and I saw some work that he had done. He had made some sculptures out of scrap metal. Asked him if he could make one for me. He made me a dolphin out of old metal trash cans. It's been hanging up in my house for 25 years. He's now quite accomplished. His name is Paul Hamilton. He's out in Granville, Ohio, and he's famous for actually oil painting.
So is it hard to turn off your recycle mind when you're out and about at a restaurant, coffee shop, and you see people piling up a trash container full of items? How do you handle that?
Not very well. It is impossible to turn that brain off, and I think that's a challenge for all of the folks at SWACO. It is, you can't help but notice. You can't help but feel a little twinge of anxiety when you see some of these things that are going on out there. And we've all been on. I certainly am guilty of having some business cards, and even if it's a Saturday or Sunday, and I'm at a restaurant or something, handing a little card over and saying, "Hey, if you want to do some composting, give us a call. We can help you."
Well, you say anxiety, I say rage. I have recycling rage. If I see someone do something obviously wrong, I was like, "What are you doing?" I get really mad.
What's the next big thing in the whole mission to reduce, reuse, recycle?
Well, I mean, we talked a lot about the investments that are being made. I think so. For instance, going back to this new recycling facility, the technologies that are being utilized there I do anticipate over the next 2 years, you're going to see a continued expansion of the materials that are collected.
Okay.
The D-brand facility that's on textiles is another example where you're going to see more and more of investments by brands to help us be able to recycle more and more materials.
Awesome.
Now, you drove up here from the SWACO headquarters in Grove City for this podcast, but how much time have you spent in Dublin? Do you have a Dublin eatery or a coffee shop that you like?
Absolutely. I've got family members who have lived in Dublin. I've lived in Hilliard, so not too far away. My go-to would probably be Harvest Pizza.
Oh, delicious.
They've got some great pizza, some great beverages there too. You can then, you're done with your pizza, you walk down the street and go to Jenny's. That's always a good go-to.
That's it.
And then you head back the opposite direction once again and take a little stroll over Bridge Park, over the river, and have a great evening.
Wow.
And then recycle that Harvest Pizza box.
I was just thinking the same thing.
And on that little stroll, you'll see some recycling containers that SWACO helped fund, actually. That's a grant. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, let's flip that because our residents are always looking for cool places to check out in Central Ohio. Where should we go the next time we're in your neighborhood in Grove City?
Well, Grove City has done a great job of revitalizing their little downtown. If you haven't been there, it's really something to see. I would encourage people to take a little drive down there on a Saturday. There's a lot of little interesting shops, antique shops, other kinds of little boutique shops. Great little coffee shop called Transcend that we like to go to.
Cool.
And it's really a little bit of a hidden gem. I would encourage people to check it out.
All right.
All right. So Dublin City Council has the goal of being the most sustainable, connected, and resilient global city of choice. What can we do better?
Oh gosh, I should have planned an answer to this one.
Sorry, I sprung that on him.
Well, you're doing some great things. Let's give credit where credit's due here. I mean, you're doing some great things. You've made it very convenient for residents to recycle electronics, polystyrene, food waste. You've obviously got a successful curbside recycling program. Let's think about curbside organics collection down the road for sure. We have this convenience center that I talked about. You guys are kind of starting down that path,
right? And
we're helping other communities as well. Let's continue to expand that portfolio of hard to recycle materials that could maybe be recycled right here at a Dublin facility.
Andrew, you're such a good sport. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to the entire team at SWACO for the great things that you guys are doing.
Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you as well for taking the time to connect with your city. Tune in next time as we continue to explore the many personalities and experiences that make Dublin a thriving place to live, work, and grow.